guys, it's Soda here. Welcome back to another video. Today, thank you, Yuki. Today I'm going to be talking about axolotls, and specifically morphing axolotls, why it can sometimes happen and why it shouldn't be done, etc. So I've made quite a few axolotl videos on my channel. I believe I've briefly talked about this before, but I've never really talked about it in detail before, and I often get asked about it quite a lot, especially in my videos where I'm reviewing other people's videos. I've seen a lot of videos of people taking axolotls out of water, and I always talk about why you shouldn't do that, and I often get a lot of comments that are like, oh, actually you can because they morph and they breathe out of water. I think a lot of people seem to get axolotls confused with other salamanders, like tiger salamanders, which do morph and come out of water, but axolotls don't do that naturally, but it has been done before, and I'm going to talk about that, okay? So axolotls are an aquatic species of salamander. I've made a few care videos on them if you want to know more about how to care for an axolotl. If you want to get one, feel free to watch those videos, because I'm not going to talk about that today. I'm just going to talk about morphing. So unlike other salamanders, axolotls don't go through metamorphosis. They don't come out of water like other salamanders do. They stay in water their whole life. They're basically permanently in their juvenile stage, which is why you can see like tiger salamanders look very similar to axolotls while they're babies. But once they're adults, they look very different because they come out of water, and axolotls don't do that. So yes, axolotls do have gills as well as lungs, but they aren't really evolved to use their lungs. So despite having them, they don't use them. Sometimes they do gulp at the surface for air, but they don't need to do this because they breathe through their gills, which is why they do that flicking thing where they flick the water around with their gills. That is actually their way of moving the water around and creating more oxygen. But yes, there has actually been a few circumstances where an axolotl has actually morphed into a salamander. Now the reason why I don't like talking about this, usually I just say axolotls don't morph, they never do it, they never will. Which like is most of the time true, but also sometimes not. But I don't like talking about it because I don't want to encourage anyone to ever do this, because this is a very painful and harmful process for an axolotl to go through, and usually it only happens because people force their axolotls to do it. It very rarely happens just randomly. So if you're worried about your axolotl morphing, it really will most likely never happen. It's extremely rare, and usually it's done by people forcing their axolotls to morph. Now I wasn't sure if I wanted to say how people do this because I don't want people to do this because of my video. But I feel like people will find out anyway. You know, this isn't like secret information. This is like something you can just Google and it will come up. So I am gonna say it, but please watch the whole video because, like I said, please don't do this. This is a really inhumane thing to do in my opinion, and honestly kind of straight up animal abuse, but that's just my opinion. But basically, people have morphed their axolotl by injecting iodine into their axolotl. So iodine basically produces thyroid hormones and makes the axolotl go through metamorphosis. But there's a lot of buts, so please watch this whole video. This is an extremely dangerous process and usually results in the axolotl dying. There is not a high chance of an axolotl surviving this, which is why I find it extremely inhumane, and I think it should be just banned, you know, everywhere. It should be illegal, which I think it is illegal actually in a lot of places, but some places it's not. I don't know why people have done this. Like, I just feel like there's absolutely no need to do this, just to put your axolotl through pain and potentially death just to morph them. Like, just go buy a tiger salamander instead of forcing an axolotl to morph. So basically they will morph the same way a tiger salamander will. They'll lose like their gills and they'll start coming out of water, and then they have to have a whole different setup. They have to have like a half land and half water setup. So there actually isn't like a whole lot of information on morphing axolotls because, like I said, it's a very rare thing, and most people that have done it have only done it because they forced their axolotl to do it. But from the information I found, if an axolotl does survive going through metamorphosis, it does decrease their lifespan by a huge amount. There's no specific time of how long they will live after this, but from what I've read, it can be like about a year or two, or sometimes just a few months. That's a huge lifespan decrease because axolotls can live up to 15 years, and then a morphed axolotl can only live for a couple of years, potentially. That's only the information that I could find, and that's only if they survive going through it. So on a very rare occasion, an axolotl can morph without being injected with iodine. Sometimes an axolotl can morph due to really bad water conditions. So basically, if an axolotl is kept in a tank that has very, very poor water quality, like it hasn't been cycled, or maybe there's chlorine in it, maybe it doesn't get cleaned or it has a lot of ammonia, that can make the axolotl morph because the axolotl wants to get out of that terrible water quality, so they end up going through metamorphosis. Which is also why you should always be keeping an eye on your water parameters, which you should be doing anyway with any aquatic animal, but having a cycled tank and stable water parameters is very important, as well as a stable temperature for axolotls because they are cold water animals. Sometimes an axolotl can also morph due to their diet. Say if someone's feeding their axolotl like salmon, which you shouldn't feed to an axolotl, but people do that for some reason. Salmon is very high in iodine, and like I said, people inject iodine to make their axolotl morph. So if someone is constantly feeding their axolotl food that has iodine in it, that can also make their axolotl morph. I have heard of it sometimes happening for no reason, like a genetic thing, I guess. Some people have said it's just happened even with good water quality and stuff like that. I don't know. If you do happen to have an axolotl that is morphed, their care will be a lot different to a normal axolotl, so obviously they need to have an area where they can come out of water. I have seen people with morphed axolotls, usually they will have half land and half water area for them. I'll try and find some examples to show you guys, just in case there is anyone watching this video that happens to have one. And also their diet will be different. They can eat things like live insects like mealworms and crickets and stuff like that, which a normal axolotl can't eat, but a morphed one can, because they're really different, honestly. So yeah, that's basically an explanation of how axolotl morphing works and why you should never do it and why it's a really harmful process to put an animal through. If you want a salamander that morphs, just get a tiger salamander or any other salamander, honestly. Don't force an animal to morph just for your own benefit. Okay, we good now? I hope the people that always comment on my videos that axolotls can morph will watch this video, because I get so many of those comments and they really annoy me. Unfortunately, it's a very common stereotype that people think that axolotls are the same as other salamanders, but they're really not. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching this video. Hope it could be helpful, and feel free to check out my other axolotl videos if you want to know more about them, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!